Thank you for staying with us on Citizen Weekend. As I mentioned before we took the break, I'm joined by Professor Karuti Kanyinga and Professor Macharia Monene. I'll start with you, Professor Karuti. What was Gachagua's undoing?
First of all, Gachagua's undoing was the failure to recognize that Kenya's new constitution of 2010 sets a very robust framework for strengthening institutions for governance in this country. And two, Kenya's constitution hopes for a country governed by the rule of law and a country that respects all ethnic communities in the country. A constitution that is premised on the need to have all Kenyans treated equally and becoming an inclusive society. The fact that the Deputy President went out of his way to talk about Murima, to talk about Mount Kenya as beneficiaries of what he was claiming to be his quest for leadership, went against the Constitution and set him against everyone else. But at the same time, we need to recognize that Gachagua and most of the political leaders did not recognize that actually politics in this country has changed from 2022. Everyone was campaigning on issues, economic recovery, ending unemployment, ending poverty, providing access to basic services. Everyone has forgotten that, and I think the Deputy President did not concentrate on trying to ask the question, how do we make Kenya one country with working systems? And in fact, the Gen Z protest brought out these issues very clearly, saying that they want accountable leadership, they want a tribeless leadership, they want a country that is inclusive. The Deputy President's quest for Mount Kenya type of aspiration and Mount Kenya kind of interest itself, I think that one set him against everyone else. All the same, let me say quick recovery to him, but at the same time, I need to say we need to hold his legal team accountable. How can a Deputy President of a country fall ill and they don't know where he is? They owe a duty. They all apology to the country to say that, and because Paul Moite, my good friend, said he doesn't know where the Deputy President was. And yet later on they said he was unwell. That does not add together. The illness of a Deputy President is an illness of the whole country. The chest pains he has are not individual chest pains. Those are public interest chest pains. And they all are duty to the country to have explained that their client has fallen unwell and is gone to hospital. The reason why they were saying that they cannot trace him raises a lot of questions. All the same, I wish him quick recovery, but his legal team owes Kenya a duty, owes Kenya a response on why they never told the Speaker of the Senate that our client has fallen unwell, our client has gone to hospital. That's something that we know. The social context of illness in an African society is not held within an individual. It's something that is communicated to everyone who is around. Why they never communicated this from the early beginning raises a lot of questions, and the legal team must be held to account. Why is it that they never communicated such a national issue to the Speaker of the Senate? And we learned about it later on, much later. I think that is irresponsible on the legal team to have done that. Mm-hmm. It is irresponsible of anyone close to the Deputy President not to have communicated that. Okay. All the same, I wish him quick recovery, and I wish the incoming Deputy President-elect the best.
Okay. Professor Macharia Monene, was this a case of dume wawili haezi coexist kwa boma moja?
There is truth to that. I think just a little bit right down what Karuti has said. I don't think I want to blame the legal team. If he went for lunch with his security, because he's always surrounded, it was the obligation of the government, the security people, as soon as he felt sick, to alert the whole country. Not the legal team, which was not there. Mm-hmm. It is the people, whoever is in charge of security and his well-being, to alert the country immediately that the Deputy President has fallen sick and is in the hospital. Let the President know, let the speakers know, and the team. So it is not so much Moite and company, because we are not there when he fell sick. Okay? So whoever was there is the one to be blamed, and the security people are there. So they failed in that regard. And that's, I'm giving benefit of doubt to the legal team, because if they were not there eating with him, they could not have won. That's it. Now, the question of two bulls.
I'm with us, if I can say that. But at the same time, the legal team should. Yes, I'm with us, Fatuma.
If you know, you know.
I'm with us, Fatuma. But the point is, even the legal team should have found it necessary to. The security team should have found it necessary to communicate with the legal team so that they can inform the Senate.
Yeah.
You know. So, but the social context of this chesty pain is something that requires an explanation from the outside.
I would agree, except that, see, the security people have access to the speaker. They do, and they should if they don't.
Okay.
Okay. On the question of Dume Wawili.
Yeah, of course, it's always a problem, because each of them feels its weight, which is not, may not be there. And one of the problems we had with this government, same as the last government, the impression was created that they had created a co-presidency. The Ruto thing, especially in the first term, it appeared like a what?
A co-presidency.
Yes. Only that things went sour in the second term, for different reasons which require different explanations. In this administration, the deputy imagined he was Ruto. What Ruto used to do, he thinks he could do, forgetting that Ruto is not Uhuru.
He did say, I learned from my boss.
Yes.
He didn't learn anything. He learned, or he mislearned. He should have learned from his original mentor, Moi. Moi was very clear. Vice presidents, or whatever they are called, have no minds of their own, and they have no business thinking. He once told Kibaki that in 1984, stop thinking, because thinking is a presidential prerogative. So don't imagine, Gachagua never learned that thing. He never learned from Josephat Karanja, who was accused of imagining that he's a president, acting president. And then he was shown the door. And people told Gachagua right from the beginning, hey, mister, things are not right. There's no way you can keep on saying the president and I. It is not a two-man government. It's only one. And not only one person was given the big sword, which Ruto said, Kukata mboga. So, no one else was given that sword. So, and Gachagua seems to have missed that point. Now, all these are things that are said about him. These are excuses. He overreached.
Yeah,
you agree?
I don't really agree. I would like to look at it in the context of why do we have deputy presidents? Why are deputy presidents identified, first of all, to be running mates of our president, especially after the 2010 and even before? Is for pragmatic reasons. One, either you have got a lot of resources to help the president that you are running mate win an election, or you have got networks that he can the running mate can use to win an election, or finally there is something there is a value addition that you are bringing. Now, Gachagua himself was bringing almost all of them. He was bringing resources. He was bringing Central Kenya or Mount Kenya networks, if one can call it that. But what we have learned with elite-based politics in the country is that your value comes to an end immediately after the elections, because your aim is actually to help the running mate win an election or the president win an election. And immediately after that, pragmatism comes to an end when new interests come in. Remember, when you win an election, there are quite a number of people outside, and they are very formidable. Raila was outside, Kalonzo is outside, and therefore they are knocking on the door to come inside. And because they are knocking on the door to come inside, your value diminishes. Your value diminishes, and once it diminishes and you don't see it coming to an end, That's when the president or whoever was your running mate starts calculating about your worth. And your worth might not be very permanent, given that you have been expended with. And if you don't recognize that, then you are actually dispensed with. And that's what we have seen with the Gachagua here. He continued talking about Mount Kenya instead of talking about national level kind of values. If he had actually continued talking on a national platform, maybe he would have been much more a threat to President Ruto. But the moment he started campaigning on an ethnic platform, that threatened the social basis of the regime, and therefore people like Raila had to come in. And now, not the most interesting thing is that during this short period of time, when Gachagua, Deputy President Gachagua has been taken ill, the people talking most about him are the opposition, Kalonzo Musyoka, Wamalwa. They are looking for ways of forming an alliance outside of the Raila Ruto axis. And that's how we have got to read Kenyan politics. It's about elite-based interests. And it's not about to deliver public goods. It's about delivery of elite interest in the name of public interest. And the moment we recognize that these ethnic elites and these elites generally have nothing to offer publicly, it's about their interests. I think the moment we start holding them to account, the better for the country. Right. Unfortunately, we have very few national elites who are speaking the language of Kenya, but they always speak about themselves. And that's very dangerous for our country.
Professor Macharia Munene, what do you think was the straw that broke the camel's back? Because there are a lot of parallels that have been drawn between the two leaders. Why is it that Uhuru Kenyatta stayed with William Ruto as his deputy, and William Ruto could not stay beyond 2 years with the man?
An element of maturity comes into the picture. I think Uhuru was a little more mature on these things. There are things you don't do to put the country in a crisis. Gachagua was going before the Gen Zs. It was very clear. In fact, the Gen Zs appear to have saved him a little bit from the pressure that was happening. Now, the question of running mate was put there in the Constitution, 2010 Constitution, deliberately to stop Moi from doing what Moi used to do. That was the point. And Gachagua's appointment, because virtually appointment, he was supposedly not the most popular candidate.
Selection.
And then, selected and then he bulldozed his way into the ticket, which was not very amusing. And so, that's why the goose was cooked right from the beginning. You know, and he gets in, yes, and then he started messing up immediately. And he was conflicted. At one time he says how loyal he is to Ruto. Remember there was a time he talked about Ruto being the king of Kenya, and then he himself the king of the mountain. That kind of thing. And he had a problem convincing anyone in the mountain, let alone anywhere else, that he's a king. That never got straight into. And despite the advice he got from people, Kanyinga says he's his friend, so he might have advised him.
No.
No,
I did not.
And even if he offered the advice, it was not accepted. Gachagua messed up. Not so much that he talked about the mountain. That was an irrelevancy. The main thing is that he was obnoxious to a lot of people. Even the mountain itself has not accepted him. So there was something about his personality that became their excuse. Now, what this saga of impeachment, the circus, because it is a circus, has done is to divert attention from serious problems in the country. The Adani thing, we're talking about Adani now, and the Ketrako, and all those things. People have been made to forget that. And even maybe you are giving a story about some abduction of some people in Kenya who are educators. These are educators. And they seem to have a conflict with the government in Turkey.
Yes.
And it's not the first time that the government in Turkey has reportedly abducted people from Kenya. It's not the first time, if it has happened. So it's giving Kenya a very bad image of not able to protect people, citizens, or permitting external forces to come and do strange things. So, and it's happening at this time. It's a good cover. People are busy talking about Gachagua, not to notice about things.
And speaking of Gachagua, I wanted us to play a clip of some of the utterances that informed the first ground for his impeachment, the infamous shareholding remark.
I am unapologetic to demand and to insist that those who believed in William Ruto and supported him to a man have every right to benefit immensely from his government. I have no apology at all. And if that can bring a problem, so be it. For now, there are certain positions ambaye itakuwa ni ya wale watu walimuamini William Ruto, walikubaliana na mipango yake ya kubadilisha Kenya, walimpigia kura na walionesha mapenzi kwake. Please don't waste your time. There will be no division in this government. President William Ruto and I talk the same language. We consult, we agree, and we move on. What we are doing and what I'll continue to do is uniting the backyard of President William Ruto in the Mount Kenya region and the Rift Valley. So mimi niko mulima, Rift Valley, mulima. Wananiingilia, huyu ni naibu rais wa Kenya, bona anaenda Rift Valley, anaenda mulima, anaenda Rift Valley. For the time being nitaka hapo. Wacha rais azunguke, aende Kisumu, aende Kisii, aende Kakamega, aende kila pahali. Ile atapata aniletee, niongeze na ile yetu.
So that's one of the remarks that was cited.
Maturity.
As part of the grounds for his impeachment. But will there be a political fallout in central Kenya, Professor Karuti?
I don't think there's going to be a political fallout in Mount Kenya, maybe a political fallout in Kikuyu, Mount Kenya region, because of the fact that Kithure Kindiki from Mount Kenya East has been nominated. And the second thing, given what we have seen in recent times, especially with the Gen Z protests, people are demanding tribalist government. People are demanding to have an accountable leadership. That itself tells us that Kenya is changing, and changing very rapidly to the extent that many politicians are not seeing this change. It is not about Mount Kenya region that matters to the country. As we have been saying before, what is good for Mount Kenya or Central Kenya Kikuyu people is not necessarily good for Kenya. But what is good for Kenya is also good for everyone else, including the Kikuyus in Central Kenya. And that's what the Mount Kenya politicians and the people need to know. That making Kenya a better country is good for all of us, but making Mount Kenya a good place is not necessarily good for everyone else. So we must work together for inclusive development, and development that does not exclude any part of this particular country and looks at all citizens in the same manner. Let people be judged not on basis of their tribe. Let people be judged on basis of the content of their character. And I think that's what Deputy President Gachagua failed to know, that people of the current generation of Gen Zs and everyone else, especially millennials, want a country that functions, want a country with services that matter and work for everyone, and it doesn't matter where you come from. They want a country that recognizes everyone for their skills, for the content of their character, and not on basis of their tribe. In fact, if you look at the young generation today, they use their first names. Whether you are a Kariuki or Njoroge, they prefer to say James, they prefer to say Fatuma, as I have heard that that's your recent name, right? And the reason for this is because they have realized that ethnicity or tribe does not deliver anything. Many people have come to realize that you don't get anything by being who you are on basis of your ethnic identity. You don't pass exams because you are a Kariuki or Njoroge. You don't pass exams because you are Kiprotich. You pass exams because of who you are. And they want everyone to be treated on basis of what they are. And that's the Kenyan the young generation is looking for. And political leaders who are not aligned with this are actually suffering the consequence. That's the message that I think that is being passed to Deputy President Gachagua, that he missed the boat. The 2022 elections was about issues, was about building the economy, was about building opportunities for employment and ensuring that there is inclusive society. But he has missed the tone, talking about Mount Kenya alone. And people know that even when you talk about Mount Kenya, it will depend on who you know. If you are a Kikuyu, you'll not get a job all of a sudden. You'll get a job because you have a cousin who you know, or you know Gachagua himself, or a member of parliament, but they want a system that will not discriminate on basis of who you know. They want a system that works for everyone, and that's what we pray for. I hope it's a lesson that he has learned. I hope those who are watching him and what is happening to him will learn this big lesson. We are in for a big shakeup in this country in 2027. The Gen Zs and the millennials have started changing the country and saying, we are watching you. And I think we need to start thinking very differently. It's not the tribe that matters, it's Kenya that matters. That's the message being passed to him.
All right, before I let you gentlemen go, of course, there's a question of what are his options now, politically speaking. And as you answer that question, let's just play this clip for you gentlemen and for the audience. Gachagua saw this coming. Take a listen.
Yesterday, Nurdin Haji was trying to put up a team together to craft lies and propaganda and attribute the chaos that were in the country to leaders, I included, former President Uhuru Kenyatta and others. Yet it is very clear, and the President has admitted, that these protests were caused by the anger of the people of Kenya.
Professor Macharia Munene, what do you make of how he handled this crisis, and what are his options moving forward?
Well, he has already been convicted by the Senate. So he's just waiting for the court to exonerate him or find a way of saying he is not guilty. There is precedent in the sense that the Wabora case, Martin Wabora, who was impeached and convicted, and the court let him off. So there is precedent for that. So we'll be waiting for the outcome of the judicial process, which is the right thing. Let me end up by saying the following. Gachagua's problem is that he displayed immaturity in his utterances, not because he's from Nyeri. He's just immature. The clips you've shown there show somebody who is mature, politically immature, and could have handled things better. Let me also say that there is also a feeling in the country, a strong anti-Kikuyu feeling. It is there. And we saw in the discussions in Parliament, and even the language you could see here, we then make people feel that there's something, not just Gachagua, there's something here. They say, oh, you Kikuyu don't think you are this. Kikuyus are not getting any jobs. That's the reality. And then you have these accusations, this. So that collective lumping of people then creates a defensive mechanism. And it's been going on. Sometimes you don't want to admit it, but it is going on. The fact that Gachagua is immature in his utterances and behavior should not be an excuse for lumping all people together for condemnation. The country is in trouble right now. And part of the problem, the reason it is in trouble, is because it appears as if we have emphasized in corruption and incompetence as the criteria. So things are not working, not because of this tribe or that tribe, just because at the policy-making level, there is a lot of incompetence and diluted corruption. We have been made to believe that Kenyans no longer control the country. Okay? We have mortgaged sovereignty. So the mandarins as treasury come up with ridiculous things. And you ask them, why? What are you doing? And they say, the IMF told us. Isn't that what they do? The World Bank told us. We never elected the World Bank and the IMF. So what are they doing telling Kenya what to do? Then we hear some other external forces are the ones deciding things for the country. whether the Adani saga, the implication of it is that Kenyans are not in control of their country. Things have gone. Mm-hmm. Is that a good thing? So if somebody negotiated bad deals, that's incompetence on the part of the negotiators.
Okay.
Not a particular tribe or this or that. Mm-hmm. On the part of the negotiator, who is it that, and how did those people get there?
All right.
To the point where we get people in position of response who do not know what Kenya's national interests are.
Okay. So yeah, I'll have to, unfortunately...
I disagree that actually there is anti-Kikuyu sentiments in the country. It's the Kikuyu leaders in the country who are inviting a siege, who are creating a siege mentality. During the voting, you could hear some Kikuyu saying that the deputy president is our own. We can't let him fall just like that. You know, that's not the kind of sentiment you would expect from a leader. I think in the whole country there is anti-leadership that lacks accountability. There is anti-leadership that is not responsible and responsive. That's what we have seen, and that's what Kenyans are asking for. Whether it's among the Kikuyus, whether it's among the Merus, whether it's in Rift Valley, we have seen that people are demanding accountable leadership. People are demanding services that work. People are demanding systems that provide services for everyone, irrespective of tribe, irrespective of age, irrespective of generation. I think that's what I'm looking at, and I think some of the Kikuyu leaders are creating a siege mentality for purposes of becoming relevant. There is nothing anti-Kikuyu in this. It's anti-accountability, lack of accountability, it's anti-corruption. People are asking for better governance of the society rather than looking at it from a Kikuyu point of view. I really think that what has happened is the Kikuyu leaders themselves who are trying to create an opportunity for being relevant. Now that they have not been accountable to their own constituencies, they must look for reasons for not being accountable, and they will blame the systems. And all Kenyans are knowing very well that leaders are not accountable, and that's why people want a change or leaders that can deliver to them. That's the Kenya they want. They want a new Kenya, a new beginning for everything. They want a society governed by the rule of law, not governed by individuals.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. I'll have to press pause on the conversation for tonight, but there are those who argue that one of the positives of this entire process is leaders will have to think twice while accumulating wealth, because it could be put under the microscope as the 5.2 billion was done where Rigathi Gachagua is concerned. We take a break, but coming up,